Hey y'all, welcome back to Weekly Hyperfixations. I'm Riot. This week, as promised, is me mostly talking about Wicked. I'll be so real with y'all. I'm mostly talking about Wicked because I did go on the 20th to a double feature. My entire day was Wicked, so yeah, my entire day while my partner was editing. So yeah, let's go ahead and I'm gonna go through the other things that I have that are not Wicked related, and I'll save one of the topics for after the Wicked section, and then the pyramid will be more Wicked, just for a little rundown for y'all. Okay, first and foremost, I do only care about this because I remember his father, which at this point is a more rare thing, which I don't like saying that. That makes me feel much older than I am. But Robert Irwin, son of Steve Irwin, won Dancing with the Stars. So 10 years after his sister won, he won, and that was a really sweet moment. And he just has an excellent energy. That whole family has an excellent energy. It was really good. I just wanted to touch base on that because that's whimsical and fun. Oh my goodness. And shout out to my partner for reminding me about this. The short and sweet tour is now over. Sad, I know. But one of the last performances, presumably, in LA, you know how she arrests someone every night of the tour with her fuzzy pink handcuffs. Well, believe it or not, she arrested the Miss Piggy. I know. Crazy. Sabrina Carpenter has been working with the Muppets for that Muppet Show special that they're gonna do. So I'm not entirely surprised, but it's also such a fun moment. And forgive me, I don't know the name of all of the Muppets, though I do know pretty much all of them are named. But the one Muppet that is just a bear, and I don't mean Fozzie, I mean the one that looks like more accurately like a bear. He was her like bodyguard, her security personnel, which was really cute. But yeah, one of her final arrests on the tour was Miss Piggy. And oh, that clip is so good. If you haven't seen it, I suggest seeing it because it's really fun. Honestly, the clip of Sabrina arresting Miss Piggy and the clip of Serena, where am I? The clip of Sabrina, the one of her arresting Miss Piggy and the one of her arresting Anne Hathaway, my favorite two clips of the whole tour. I could care less about the rest of the tour. Those two, perfect. Thank you oh, wait, there was that one where she arrested, what's his name? Was it Joe Keery? It was Joe Keery, I think. I'm saying that off rip, though. I don't quite remember. It was a bit ago, wasn't it? Marvel Rivals, peak update. That's not it. Maybe it's on a pyramid. What in the world? What am I talking about? Oh. I love looking at former notes of different weeks and being like, who am I on about? Oh man, I'm gonna go ahead and pause and then come back when I find it. Okay, I looked through literally the past couple of months, could not find it, Googled it, immediately found it. So, you know. And I looked for a picture because I was like, I'm not gonna take normal Google's answer. I want the picture. And yes, and it also gave me the tweet where she said, "Go away, Steve Harrington." So, which is relevant. Apparently the 5th season came out or whatever. I don't know. I'm boycotting Stranger Things because both Noah Schnapp and Millie Bobby Brown are super Zionists, so I'm not going to watch it. As much as I enjoy there being a show that has Finn Wolfhard in it, no. Even though, you know, I watched it the second the first season came out. Yeah. Anyway, those were my favorite Sabrina arrests from the tour, but I wanted to highlight the Miss Piggy one, because that's really special. Let's see. It's been announced by Guillermo himself that there will be a physical release of Frankenstein. That includes a deleted convent scene. Thank you very much. I wanted to note that because that's fun. Yeah, I'm just excited that they're making a physical release for it in the first place, but also it's Guillermo del Toro, so like I assume he's gonna want us to have a physical. Yeah. Oh, in the funniest turn of just popular things becoming well, yeah, I'll use that phrase, coming out as anti-AI. 5 Seconds of Summer was promoting, okay, because they are so wildly against AI, they basically were like, quit using AI, write fan fiction instead, which people took to mean to see that as a reference to how much fanfic about Five Sauce there is. So people were joking that 5 Seconds of Summer was literally like, we would rather have you write real person fiction, RPF, than to use AI. And honestly, yeah, I would rather have that happen. Bring back 2016, dog. Please, I beg. Oh, anyway. That's the tweet there. The Marvel Rivals anniversary starts today. Actually, it's Thanksgiving. Literally today for me. And someone's car immediately going off. Hold on. Okay. Someone's car alarm went off on my street. As it does. Right. Marvel Rivals anniversary today, the 27th. Interesting anniversary day, by the way. It's been a year of this game. There's a bunch of free shit you can get if you log in for 7 days in a row. You get enough credits to get yourself a premium skin out of the shop, which is really nice, but you do have to log in every single day. It does not say that you have to do any battles though, so it's worth it regardless, even if you don't have the time to play, just to log in and get that. And then if you log in and, you know, play a certain number of games or whatever the requirement is, you get a Jeff the Shark skin, him in a little business suit, and it's actually way more customizable. So I assume the more you play, the more of those different suits and things you'll unlock. So that's very exciting too. But I know not everyone cares about that as much as the opportunity to get enough credits to get any skin you want. So, you know, I understand that. Yeah, also, there's a Venom skin, the cake one, if you haven't seen already. Someone in that office really likes Venom. I mean, really, yeah. And that's evident in the MVP screen animation for that skin. to the point in which I'm surprised that his butthole is not animated. I'm surprised it's not rendered on the skin at this point, because what is that? Dog, what is that? It's so funny because they will make that kind of Venom stuff. They won't imply queer relationships between characters, even though they just added, or recently added, Angela, who is canonically a lesbian. You know what I mean? I just hello? Yeah. That's the tweet. It sucks. I'm only going to have my partner put in a regular picture of it because that GIF is atrocious and I don't want it in my video. I don't want any stills of Venom's ass in my video, please. Anyway. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Well, we'll move on to talking about Wicked. It's very interesting, and there will be spoilers, by the way. But also, I say there will be spoilers. The musical came out in 2007, so I'm not that pressed about it. But some people do prefer to have that warning. I will be absolutely talking spoilers, undoubtedly. So, and I will also at the pyramid. So, it's really interesting to see people who aren't familiar with the musical watch Wicked for Good and have takes that didn't exist before, if that makes sense. And partially that's due to casting. But also, having knowledge of some of the deleted scenes, that also adds to, I understand why these people think that, because they missed out on the context of this specific scene. Like, there's a lot of people who hate Bach, understandably, but more than I think is necessary, if that makes sense. Because a lot of people are reflecting on the fact that he's got the behavior, people are effectively saying he's a quote-unquote nice guy who becomes a monster when he physically transforms. But I think people are missing the point that he was genuinely nice. And he was not doing things for good reasons, but he still had the self-awareness and like consciousness to be like, I may not be getting what I want, but also if he was purely that kind of quote unquote nice guy that we talk about when we call a man a quote unquote nice guy, where it's like, they say they're nice and they're definitely not. I think people are really looking past the fact that if he was only doing that because he thought that he would get Glinda at any point in time, first of all, super delusional. Second of all, if he was only doing it for that reason, and he, in fact, only changed his tone towards Nessa Rose at the Ozdust after seeing that Glinda liked someone else. He already saw that he wasn't going to get what he wanted, but he also was like, I don't want to be the person that makes Nessa, who's already in a wheelchair, already faces a lot of turmoil just from having that disability. He still had enough consciousness of like, I know it's not right, but also this girl already has a really tough life. I don't want to make it harder, which the kind of quote unquote nice guy that people are saying he is, and some people have even straight up called him an incel, that kind of man would ditch the second he saw he wasn't getting what he wanted. I don't think people understand how terrible real men are. Yeah. I do totally agree with, like, once he gets transformed into the Tin Man and kind of just flips his lid on everything, it's entirely self-inflicted. That, well, obviously the shrinking of his heart and then Elphaba saving his life, keeping him alive, by making him into the Tin Man, those are not his fault, but he did willingly stay in a situation that led him up to that moment. He could have left at literally any time he wanted, but he had enough. He was worried enough about being put in a spot where he would then feel like a bad guy, that he sticks around too long. I don't think that he gets away scot-free with fucking anything, but I also think that people are clearly losing media literacy. And I will say, here's the additional thing, is that people who are seeing it for the first time, Indina Menzel was the first person to play Elphaba, so a lot of people who were familiar with Wicked ahead of time, and also theater kids in general, know that when they cast Elphaba and Nessa Rose, that people were immediately going to take on this new meaning to pretty much everyone's decisions in the story, but also people are acting like it's always been that Bach was mean towards Bach didn't want someone, and that he does all of these terrible things to women of color. They were not originally women of color in the original media, but he was still written that way. And people are acting like he's only acting that amount of mean because of them being women of color, when it wasn't written to be like that. Like, absolutely, it makes it look so much worse, but he was already written in like that before people of color were even involved. You know what I mean? Like, back in 2007 when it came out, hey, white people being mean to white people, it's not like they made him meaner because it's women of color. Does that make sense? I definitely think it makes him look a lot worse, and he's a terrible person. But also, people are taking it a little extreme when the situation that they're talking about is a result more of the way they're taking it is not a result of how it was originally written, but it's a result of that plus casting. And I feel like people need to remember that, I guess. Like, it's not, basically what I'm saying is that John Chu did not write him that mean because it's women of color or anything, because it wasn't originally. He's just supposed to be that way regardless of who's playing Nessa and Elphaba, if that makes sense. And I hope I don't sound insensitive about it, but just very interesting to me, and it's been peeving me a little. Also, there's people who are mad that Fiyero left Glinda for Elphaba. He never liked Glinda. Did you think he liked Glinda? Hello? Did we watch the same movie? Yeah. And here's the thing, I really dislike Glinda. Literally, not because of anything to do with Elphaba, but because when they get back from whatever, and they've met Fiero, and it's been a while of Fiero being at Shiz with them. And Glinda goes, "Oh, I can't believe we're engaged." And Elphaba goes, "Fiero proposed?" And she went, "Oh no, he just doesn't know it yet." I would never talk to her again. I would never talk to her again. And then here's the thing. When they announce that Glinda and Fiero are engaged, they didn't consult him at all. He didn't know until the announcement in front of other people, so he can't deny it. He's trapped into this wedding and this relationship that he never wanted to be in. Pisses me the fuck off. And it does not help that Jonathan Bailey is a gay man. So I see him being trapped into a relationship with a woman and I go, ugh, yikes. But that's my 2 cents on that. I will say the reason that my dislike for Glinda only comes out of her interaction with Fiero and not from all the Elphaba stuff is because a good portion of that stuff with Elphaba is that she is a Nepo baby. We know Glinda's a Nepo baby. Which probably means she's never made decisions by herself. Not important ones. So when except for probably wanting to go to Shiz. But aside from that, almost every decision in her life most likely was made by her parents because they're the ones who had the money to do things. It does make sense with Glinda's amount of naivete that she would outright think that the wizard and Madame Morrible are always correct because she's never made a decision outside of adults before. And it doesn't mean that she was right, but it also makes it feel less terrible of her because a lot of it is just any decision that she outright makes herself that does not influence is not influenced by Morrible or the wizard is very much like a child. Like one of the biggest decisions that she makes independent of Morrible and the wizard is, first of all, after they've been influencing her the whole time, and Fiero had left. And she, very much like a toddler, someone took what she viewed as hers away from her. So she tattled, basically. And of course, she doesn't tell them that that's where Fiero went, but she, like, in her own way was like, I'm going to tell on her in a way that will get her in trouble or will put something in trouble, something to get back at her, which is a very childish reaction. I think in general, revenge is a very childish action because why would you let yourself be consumed by that? I do think that's a little bit of the autism talking though. I just simply don't understand why you'd want to get back at someone. For anything really. Like I understand, like I can think of actions that could be seen as getting back at someone. Almost never feel that, or I don't think I've ever felt that urge to do that. You know what I mean? Anyway. Regardless, I really loved Wicked. I think there's some things that, because people are more whipped up in the main plot or in the romances, that people are missing some very key aspects, like when the history teacher, who is a goat, gets taken away because animals are no longer allowed to teach. And then the new guy comes in with a lion cub in a cage, and you know the lion, but as a baby in a cage. This is not yet at the point in which animals are considered terrible and animals are still allowed to speak and everything like that. Which means that lion in a cage, animals are citizens of Oz. He stole someone's child and put it in a cage. You know what I mean? Ugh, it pisses me off. Okay. I will say though, I have seen, and this is partially about Wicked, partially about media literacy. I've seen a lot more people trying to re-hone in on media literacy. Thank God. Thank God. And unfortunately, it is like my generation and up predominantly, but yikes, dog. I don't know why you would want to do that. Why would you willingly lose media literacy? That's what makes consuming media fun. And here's the thing. I'm a fandom person. I find other ways to make media fun. But for people who don't do that, how else are you going to engage in the medium? How else are you going to have thoughtful discussions about the medium? Hey, this movie's also about fascism and patriarchy. And the inherent malice carried in the idea of oppression. The inherent malice of oppressors. I've only seen one person talking about that. It makes me sad. Ugh, okay. I'm gonna talk more about Wicked when I get to the pyramid, because I'll be talking about specific characters. The things I want to touch on before the pyramid, and this happened apparently like yesterday through today. There was an art Reddit, a subreddit for art. Okay. Someone posted their art normally, as you do, and then someone in the comments who liked their art was asking if they had any wares that they could purchase because they really liked it and they wanted to support the artist. So the artist said, yeah, I have a couple prints and things like that on my like shop thing website that I have. And one of the moderators, because OP used the word print in a comment, they banned that user and and they said it was because the use of the word print was not involved in art. Hey, who let a mod into a subreddit about art who doesn't even know basic art terms? Sure. Yeah, digital art. You could say, here's my digital art. I think it looks so much better as a physical print. And then you have a picture of it. But here's the thing. Lithograph, stenograph, those are all things where a lino cut stencil, or a lino block. Hey, you don't post pictures of the lino block after you carve it, because the lino block carving is a stamp, which means when you stamp it and then show off the work, that's a print. Stenograph, linograph, lino block, prints. That's the word you use. Who let a person into an art subreddit who doesn't even know a very basic piece of terminology? There are art forms that literally don't exist. Like, well, they do exist, but the finished product is called a print. So apparently, that mod, upon receiving all of this criticism, removed every other mod besides themselves, locked down the entire subreddit, and then deleted their account, effectively killing the subreddit. Hey, what the fuck? Hey, actually, what the fuck? And the original poster of that art was answering a question. It wasn't even the original post. It was just a comment. Hey, what the fuck? Genuinely, quite the fiasco. And I use that word because why am I not using that word more often? It looks cool. It sounds funny. Anyway. But I wanted to share that because I just heard about it and it was very interesting to me. Because why would you do that? Why would you let someone on a mod team for an art subreddit who doesn't even know words that are required when talking about certain forms of art? Are you kidding me? Anyway. Like, dude, just sit them down with a PowerPoint at the least, dude. You can't just see the word and delete it. Did you even read the post? Oh my god. So that happened. Yeah. Oh, also, this is a very humorous thing. So I had the double feature of Wicked on the 20th. And then the next day, I played a bunch of Final Fantasy XIV, as I do. And those of you who've seen, I believe, just the previous episode, question mark? Oh, wait. 2 episodes ago, I think. He's on, I put him on the pyramid, but I don't think I mentioned it. I'll assume I did. So if any of you saw the week 45 episode, which was 2 weeks ago, you may know where I'm going with this. So after, the 20th, a full day of watching Wicked, I then the next day went home and I played Final Fantasy XIV. I'm in the Endwalker expansion. Lo and behold, what character is in that expansion a lot? Why, it's Grahatia. Oh, and who voices Grahatia? Jonathan Bailey. So I joked to everyone around me that I spent 2 days listening to Jonathan Bailey talk because I watched 6 hours of Wicked and then the next day played through Endwalker for probably 6 hours. Just listened to Jonathan Bailey talk for 2 days. Which is so funny to me. Also, I want to note, I want to express deeply, first of all, and I'm sure the way I've talked about him has made it clear, but I think it's really funny that he's the sexiest man alive and so many women are fawning over him. And so many women are being so very toxic and pretending they have a chance with Jonathan Bailey. Girl, he ain't even playing for your team. He's gay. Some people are like, oh, but what if he's bi? Did he say he's bi? No? Cool. Then he's not. Oh, it disgusts me so much. But I think it's very funny. There's a scene where it's a functionally fade to black. They Fiero and Elphaba bang, basically. And it was so funny because afterwards, shirtless Jonathan Bailey, all I could think of is 1, wow, his arms look absolutely huge next to Cynthia Erivo's arms. And 2, wow, how do you get muscles like that? That looks so cool. How'd you do? And then I've been having a gender crisis since. So, that's fun. But I'm having a gender crisis in the way that, like, I will wear a binder like I am now, and then I will put on makeup and earrings and, like, face up, super feminine. Everything else, not. Like, hello? I'm giving gay sun today. For what? Anyway, I thought that was very funny because, every other lady in the theater is like, ah, Jonathan Bailey shirtless. And I'm like, dude, how'd you get your muscles just so defined like that? Your arms are huge. Anyway, I guess we'll move on to the pyramid. And it's an all Wicked pyramid. Get ready for it. Okay. First up on the pyramid, and this is predominantly for performance, honestly, of Michelle Yeoh, but first up on the pyramid is Madame Morrible. So devious. So outright devious. So unabashedly rude. And yet, even though she's so mean to Glinda, Glinda doesn't change her opinion of Madame Morrible till the end, basically. And oh, it's so good when she does. But I think Michelle Yeoh did a very excellent job, especially since it's funny in a society of Oz where everything is dictated by the wizard. He's clearly not the one who's actually in charge. His ideas, yes. But the only person who has any real power in Oz, like the Emerald City, is her. And I think that's very important to touch upon because she really treats the wizard like a puppet. Like, there's no way she doesn't know that he can't read the grimoire, and there's no way she doesn't know that he doesn't have any real power. It's so interesting that she doesn't even care that he doesn't have power because she knows that she needs a man to be the front. You know what I mean? And I just thought that was wonderful. Also, just all the little subtleties of, they make sure that you, the viewer, for sure know that the weather controlling is her doing, and therefore the cyclone is her doing. But to add on to that, how long it takes for Glinda to realize that she did that, and how long it takes for anyone to pinpoint who did that, is very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So Madame Morrible is on the pyramid because I just loved the overall performance. And also I think Michelle Yeoh was an excellent choice because, you know, John Chu worked with her previously for Crazy Rich Asians, and in that she's also quite sinister. Obviously not a magical form of sinister, just a real woman being a bitch, but that seeing that quiet, masterful deception and that just beautiful underlying yet visible to the viewer sinister behavior is so good, and I love it every time. Next up on the pyramid is Bach. I mostly gave my reasons earlier while talking about him, but he's on the pyramid because I thought Ethan Slater's performance was really good. And this is a dude where the only thing I knew his name from was in 2017. He was the Broadway lead for the SpongeBob musical, and yes, that means he was playing SpongeBob. But just to see someone who their other famous role is the most bright, peppy, happy character who's so kind and nice and silly and nothing menacing or evil about him, to playing a character who starts out unassuming and normal and turns into something sinister. Oh, love it. Love seeing an actor where you see them as one role and then the next thing you see him in is the opposite. I love when that happens so much. Also, hold on. Okay. Just seeing that, you know, I completely forgot that he was the guy who played SpongeBob in the musical. Until he was singing and I recognized it, because even with the voice he puts on for either character, when you're holding out a note, that character goes away a little bit and your normal voice comes out, and it immediately clicked for me in the theater because I had forgotten while I was watching it. And it was a very funny realization. Man is objects. Anyway, Bach Woodsman is on the pyramid because I think we saw a much more, in general, Wicked is written that way, but this is such a more sinister Tin Man than in The Wizard of Oz, which is, I mean, that's part of the point with Wicked, is that it's seeing the other side of things. And everything about this movie is seeing the other side of things. But I really like that instead of seeing the other side of a concept with Bach Woodsman, you just see the other side of him, which is very nice. Next up on the pyramid is the Wizard. It is Jeff Goldblum, so you know, there's that. I think the masterful doing of, he talks about, oh, he wishes he had a family, he wishes he had a family, he wishes he had a family. And then after he orders the witch to be killed, and after she is supposedly killed and dealt with, then he finds out that was his daughter that he didn't know he had. And it shatters him. And that's honestly the reason why Glinda can convince him to leave. Not only is he no longer the person in charge, and he no longer has the power that he no longer has the power in terms of influence that he used to, and he no longer has that leg up over Glinda, and Madame Morrible is out of the picture. Or is about to be out of the picture. It was a no-brainer, I think, for him to leave. He had had his fun, and it was time for him to go. And I think because in the original production of Wicked, they did not lay it on as thick that he really wanted a family. And I think that was the perfect addition. Because I don't know how everyone else is media literacy wise, but you know, I went in to see this double feature of Wicked. I had not seen the first part before. I was intentionally watching it like a musical, all in one sitting. It was so unbelievably obvious to me before I even saw the wizard and saw that he was drinking out of the same bottles. I immediately knew that must be him. That has to be him. Because if that's Glinda's mom, and this is the scene that says in which she was conceived, because she was conceived out of wedlock. First of all, don't get me started on the logistics of, does that mean she drank so much absinthe, a mint liqueur, very high alcohol potency, a real liquid you can purchase. Does that mean that her mom drank so much absinthe that her child turned green to match the absinthe? That doesn't make any sense. But also, there's flying monkeys, so, you know. I think that's a really funny note, by the way. But I thought the extra build-up to the wizard was so good because, you know, I always inherently saw the wizard as a fraud. Excuse me. The person who enchanted the shoes that Dorothy wears was technically Elphaba. The wizard had nothing to do with it. Glinda had nothing to do with it. All of that. But it's so interesting to just see people thinking the wizard is one thing when the whole time you sit there and you know that he is a fraud and you know that he does not have powers of himself and things like that. It's just a wonderful arc to watch. Next up on the pyramid is Glinda herself. Man, she's iffy, huh? Really performative popularity-wise. Only choosing causes that help her gain ground somewhere. You know, like she sees that Elphaba and Fiyero are really pissed off about that history teacher that was a goat being taken away and not being allowed to teach anymore. Even though Glinda didn't like that teacher because he couldn't say her real name, which is Galinda. He would only say Glinda because it's too hard for goat vocal cords to say Galinda. But once she sees that Elphaba and Fiero are bonding over their shared hatred of the fact that that teacher was no longer allowed to teach, that she decides out of nowhere, literally on a whim, that she's changing her name to Glinda in honor of that teacher and the way that he pronounced her name. And even after she does it, she literally says, I have no idea why I just did that. I don't know why I said that. I guess I'm Glinda now. It was 100% on a whim because she felt left out. Woo, the naivete of this girl. And someone, well, not just someone, a lot of people were like, I don't like how Wicked for Good really infantilizes Glinda and infantilizes by proxy Ariana Grande. Hey, you clearly don't understand that Glinda as a character is written to be like that. She is written to be naive. That is the whole point. She does not see a problem because the problem does not affect her until it does, and then she has to do something about it. Her naivete is like the whole point. This is really just me complaining about the lack of media literacy in the world, huh? It'd be like that. And honestly, that's really all I have to say about Glinda. It was so... And the way... I've really said everything about Glinda previous, but it's so interesting to... She's naively following these adults that are not good, and then by proxy, she is playing a part for them because it makes her get what she wants. And because she acts so childish, she hasn't realized that, like, her actions are hurting everyone around her until everyone is away from her. And she's on her own with those adults that aren't good. And she realizes that, like, hey, I don't like what I'm doing. You know? And, you know, then on top of that, she thinks Fiero's dead. And then she thinks that Elphaba's dead at the end. And actually a very interesting line change at the very end, because if you're not familiar, and this is probably the biggest spoiler I'll say, at the very end, when Dorothy quote unquote melts Elphaba, that's a rumor. She doesn't actually melt underwater. That rumor was perpetrated by I can't remember exactly where the scene is, but it's raining at Shiz, which of course Madame Morrible stops the rain, but it starts to rain and Madame Morrible puts an umbrella over Elphaba's head and says, you cannot get wet. And that's where that came from. I don't think people really realize that it wasn't just Madame Morrible saying that out of nowhere. It was an action that Madame Morrible did in front of a group of people that she later was able to use to her advantage. But anyways, Elphaba, quote unquote, gets melted by Dorothy. And that doesn't actually happen. She uses how massive her cloak is to make it look like she's melting, when in reality, she's going into a hatch in the ground. So it looks completely like she's dead. The only person who's privy to this is Fiero, who basically says, this is what we're coming to do, because he's the Scarecrow at this point. He says, this is what we're coming to do. This is what we've been told to do. I need you to go into that secret passageway and wait for me there, and then we will escape. So during the melting, she goes into that secret passageway and waits for him there. An added factor is that Glinda's in the closet in that room where the melting happens. She can't see the melting directly. She sees Dorothy run up with water, It sees the shadow on the wall of Elphaba melting and thinks her best friend in the world has just died. So not only has she lost the man that she loved, even though he never loved her, she's also lost her best friend, the only person who did truly love her. And as, you know, all the resolution in Oz happens, and then in the Grey Wastes, basically, I don't think that's exactly what they're called, but in the impassable gray desert that surrounds the land of Oz, and it says impassable, it's not, because the wizard got there somehow, but because, like, as Elphaba and Fiyero are fleeing onto the impassable gray desert, and they're going to cross it and start a new life together, they changed who says a certain line. Instead of Fiyero saying it, Elphaba says it. And all that is simply said is, Glinda can never know. As in, she can never know that I'm alive. She can never know that you're alive. She can never know that we left. In order for her to be able to carry on with her life, she needs to believe that we are both dead. And that's a beautiful line change. There's a lot of subtle line changes as well throughout Wicked. Like, because the show was split into two movies that were far enough apart, they changed a line in Defying Gravity, actually, because that's the closer. And at the very end, you know, she's about to do her riff and all that. The original line is, "There's the witch, grab her." Okay, said by the guards. In Wicked Part 1, the line has been changed to, "There's the witch, kill her." So they ramp it up a little extra at the end, so that when you get to Part 2, it skips forward in time a bit, and it makes it's a little more palatable to the average viewer that they ended with saying kill her, and they're starting the new one with saying kill her. Originally not so. And it's more noticeable when you watch both parts of Wicked one after the other, but you know. I really need to wrap this up, and I have two more people on the pyramid. Next up on the pyramid is Fiyero. Mainly because, God, give this guy a break. But also just even throughout everything, with being a part of the guard and the engagement and everything, this man just wants to be with Elphaba, and he's only ever wanted to be with Elphaba. And thank you, Jonathan Bailey, for finding great importance in the art of yearning. And Jonathan Bailey, outside of Wicked stuff, has said that yearning is important and it needs to be brought back because it's important. I also really put Fiyero on here because I was like, well, I'm putting all the characters on here, so I can't just say Jonathan Bailey again. But very admirable performance. There's even some deleted scenes from Part 1 that I've seen that even add more agency to, like, the fact that this man is so pretending to be brainless, mindless, thoughtless. He's not. He's doing that because it makes life easier for him. Playing the part of a dumb prince because then he doesn't have to worry about responsibilities, because if you're pretending to be stupid, you're given less responsibilities and things like that. And then in the end, just coming up with a plan to help save the love of his life and to get them out of Oz. And even with everything that's happening, like, there's no way that letter that's sewn on the inside of Elphaba's jacket, there's no way that doesn't get to her while he is the Scarecrow. Because the note from the stage play says that, you know, I'm alive. This is what we're going to do. Glinda can't know. She cannot know I'm alive. She cannot know this is the plan. Oh, so good. And I'll try to be brief because this is getting really long. And then last up on the pyramid, of course, is Elphaba. Pretty damn obvious as to why. Also just, I started crying right before No Good Deed because I realized No Good Deed was about to happen, which is when the Scarecrow transformation happens. And it was just so heart-wrenching. If she does not get a damn Tony for that song, I am going to lose it. Give this woman a Tony. Ooh. God forbid a woman of color win anything, I guess. Technically Amelia Perez won that Tony. You know how I feel about Amelia Perez at this point. Jesus Christ. But Elphaba's on the pyramid because she is the star of the show and she's absolutely the most important. And just with all of that, everything that happens to her and just the utter strength this woman carries to, you know, before she heard about Fiero's plan, she thought he had died. She told Glinda he died because she didn't know if the spell worked. She stopped halfway through it. She thought he was dead and therefore told Glinda that he was dead. Just all of it together. And I wonder as well if there's a deleted scene during the Witch Hunt March song. I wonder if there's a part that Jonathan Bailey was supposed to sing because Glinda goes inside of her little apartment thing right when it seems like another person's about to sing Why They Have Qualms with the Witch. And here's the thing is that the Scarecrow wouldn't have qualms with the witch because it's Fiero, but also Bach and the lion would be super suspicious of him if he didn't say anything in that part. So I'm wondering if he tried to say something and then maybe Ethan Slater like interrupted over him, kind of like how the Cowardly Lion section went down. And that just happened after Glinda went inside, so she didn't see the Scarecrow. But you know. I'm excited to see all the deleted scenes that come out with it. But Elphaba's at the top of the pyramid because she is the most important character in all of Oz. Dead ass. And Cynthia Erivo did a beautiful, beautiful job. Also just the whole makeup team making her look older. And, you know, she's less designed to mimic Glinda and she's more her own person and she's more comfortable in herself because she knows that despite facing turmoil for fighting for a cause, she knows that it's the most important cause and that if she were to back down, who would she be then? That's not Elphaba if she backs down, you know? Anyway, I talked for 8 million years. I'm so sorry. This is going to be a long one. The last thing I wanted to say, which I was only going to say if I needed to say more, but it does feel amiss not to mention it. My partner got me my Christmas gift early because I said I would get them a really nice copy of Frankenstein, for Christmas. And I just let him pick out which one he wanted. We got that yesterday. But while we were at that same bookstore, I saw a book that I fancied maybe getting for myself. And, you know, they stepped in and were like, oh, no, I'll get it for you for Christmas. And I haven't started it. I know there's a receipt in it, but let me move that. But this is the book I got. It is Hecate the Witch by Nikita Gill. Hecate is the goddess of magic. And also it's one of those, this is the, you know, it's got this fancy shit. The hardcover has this, oh, that's gilded, I forgot. It's got a wolf on it. And then in addition, hello, what is happening? There we go. And then also the inside has this wolf on it. And the version of this book that doesn't have all of those extra things was the same price as this one. So why wouldn't I most obviously get the fancier version, especially if it doesn't cost more than the normal one? But you know what? Yeah, I'll read the little book jacket blurb for you. This is an ancient story written long before us. It is a tale full of gods and monsters, divine wars and ghosts, a tangled mess made by the divine and the mortal, mothers and daughters, the sacred and the courageous, wounds both healed and unhealed, and the grief that grows in the absence of love. There is joy and friendship too, homegrown and pieced together by careful, gentle fingers. At the heart of this story is a girl looking for answers. At the soul of this story is the divine goddess within us all. In this stunningly intimate reimagining of a Greek myth, internationally renowned poet Nikita Gill showcases the underworld and its chthonic deities in all their glory and weaves a gripping story about the young goddess Hecate coming of age within their midst. Tell me that does not sound like a book I would read. Listen, I own almost every Rick Riordan book in existence. You think I wouldn't pick this up immediately? Also, so interesting to me that it's a myth retelling that's written by a poet. I thought that was an interesting thing. You know, usually when I think poet, I think of someone who sticks to poetry. So it's interesting to see that. I'm excited about it. I'm going to start reading it today, actually. But when I finish it, trust I will speak upon it. I'm excited. I did put on the book jacket just for talking about it because I don't like to hurt the, you know, this is made out of paper. It can rip, so I usually take that off so that I don't accidentally catch on the beautiful book. So yeah. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about. I'm very excited about it. I hope y'all have a good week. I am filming this Thanksgiving. To anyone who participates in Thanksgiving, I hope you all survived your families because I know that this holiday sucks for a lot of people. And you know, it really should be, and I did see this posited by someone from, I believe, the Cherokee tribe. But I do agree with the notion that this should be called Indigenous, like some version of like Indigenous Feast Day, just something that more properly acknowledges Native peoples, because, you know, this was their land first. Also, to reiterate, no one is illegal on stolen land, just to also put that out there. But you know, we turned in Columbus Day in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day, and I think we should also do that with Thanksgiving. But regardless, I'm gonna go consume some food. I hope you all had a lovely day. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good rest of your weekend. Survive Black Friday, please. And if you participate, and have a good week next week. And I'll see y'all then. So have a good one, y'all. Bye.